swimming pools, so we would all walk out to the river and go swimming. In the fall, we would go down the fields and pick bullberries. And they were a real tart little berry, but oh, they made good jelly. And we would pick that, and then after it froze a little bit, and the pine nut shells opened, we would go up in the canyons and pick pine nuts. I think about how we would take off and go. You know, and Mother would let us, she'd fix us a lunch and go. I guess that's what taught us to take on responsibilities. We knew what we could do and what we couldn't do, and we minded our parents. We didn't, you know, we knew what we could do or get in trouble. We'd get hurt. And when I think of the things we used to do, and none of us ever got hurt.
We'd go and stay all day, and nobody ever had to worry about you.
All day we'd take our lunch and stay all day. But it was an awful lot of fun. We had to help with the work. We had to do the dishes. And of course, like sisters, we had little squabbles who was going to wash and wipe, and who was too slow and who was too fast. And in our two front rooms, we had big area rugs, and then there was about 1.5 foot of the hardwood floor around the rugs. And it was my job every Saturday to get down and dust that, and the baseboard, dust that real good. And we had to clean the bathrooms, and we had to help with the work. But one day, Keith Worthing was having a party one Saturday, and I hurried and did my dusting and my work so I could go to the party, because there was a dance after the party, a kids' dance, and we were all going to the dance. And I thought, well, I won't move the chairs today. I'll just hurry and do this. Dusting on the floor, I won't do a good job. So I didn't move anything, and I went to the party and ran back home to get my money to go to the dance, and the kids were all waiting for me on the corner. And I got in, and Mama handed me the dust cloth and told me to go dust the floor. And I said, I did it this morning. She said, no, you didn't. You hit and missed. Well, I knew when Mother told me I had to do something. I didn't. There was no use crying and stomping and begging, because it didn't do any good. I had to get down and dust my floor. And of course the kids went on without me, and I had to run and catch up with them. But after that, I'm telling you, I had learned my lesson. We knew we had to do what we had to do.
Tell us where you were baptized and some of the positions you've had in church.
I remember when I was baptized.
Who baptized you?
I can't even remember that. But it was, we had to go down in the bottom of the library. And it was a dark little room, and damp and misty. And I was so frightened that I think I've washed a lot of it out of my mind, because it was such a terrifying moment for me to go down in that dark place and be baptized. And I had a Sunday school class when I was about 15. I started to teach Sunday school. And until I left home, I always taught Sunday school or primary. After I moved back home, I was in the primary presidency, and I taught primary and Sunday school, junior Sunday school. And I was in the Young Women's presidency. I worked in the Relief Society in the work committee, it was called then. I always had a church job. Dad's life, and after she died, he was a lonesome man. My sister was married. Mother died in November. My sister was married the next spring in June. That left me to take care of the two little boys. As I said, Dad was gone a lot of the time, and it was very hard to go to school and take care of two little boys and try to keep the house up. But that's the way we did. Dorothy moved back with us 2 years later, and stayed the rest of the time until after I got out of school. I went to Salt Lake and worked. That first winter I worked in a variety store at home, and then my girlfriends and I went to Salt Lake to work. I worked in a home there for 2 years, and then went up at Fort Douglas and worked in the tailor shop until Fort Douglas closed. That's when the war first, they talking about war. I was married in 1941 to Woodrow Young.
How did you and Grandpa?
I had met Wood when I was 18 in Panguitch. He came there with the CC camp. He used to play ball, and of course the girls would all go over and watch the ball games every week. First time Wood saw me, he made a statement to his friends that I was the girl he was going to marry. And I was going with a different fellow at the time, and Wood bet him $2 that he could take me away from the other boy. And he did. We had a lot of fun that summer that I first started going with Woodrow. They had an air dome dance hall up in the edge of town, up in a bunch of trees. And that's where we danced every Friday night. Oh, that was a lot of fun to go up there and dance. And that's where I went my first date with Woodrow, as we went to the dance. In fact, I met him up there the Friday before I went with him. And I tried to get my girlfriend to introduce me to him. She was dancing with him. And she said, no, this is one boyfriend you're not going to get. Well, I got him. That I first started going with Woodrow. And then he was transferred. And I didn't see much of him. I went to Salt Lake to work that winter. Worked there for 2 years, and then he would come into Salt Lake. I would see him every once in a while. And we wrote back and forth. But in that time, I was engaged to 2 different fellows. It was just silliness on my part. I really didn't intend to marry either one of them. It's about getting married. And the night he gave me my diamond, we rolled up on Capitol Hill behind the Capitol building and sat there talking, and he slipped my diamond on my finger. Then he asked my dad his permission to marry me, and we moved back, or we went to Panguitch and was just married at home there. And then we moved back to Salt Lake and lived there until he had to go to the service. On his boot leave from the Navy, we went to the temple in Salt Lake and had Jimmy sealed to us and had our endowments out. I moved home, and Dad had to go into the Navy. And that was hard, with a brand new baby, 2 weeks old, to come home. But I was so happy that I had my dear Dad to move home with. I stayed there for 2.5 years while Wood was in the service. He was sick the last 9 months, but when he came home, he liked Panguitch so well that we decided to stay there.
You lived up in Seattle for a time.
We just stayed there. I went up when he was in the Navy. I went up and stayed a few months in Tacoma, Washington with Wood when he was in the Navy. We just stayed in Panguitch. We lived there all our lives, had our dear children. Jim, of course, was born in Salt Lake, but Joan was born after Daddy came home from the service. Then Bill and Dottie Ann. And we had the auto parts store in Panguitch. And we had a good life. We had a lot of fun. We had a crowd of 8 couples. We had no money, any of us, so we made our own fun. And we really had a good time. And when my husband finally decided to move to Las Vegas, I didn't think I could ever live through it. To give up my home. We had bought my dad and mother's home after Dad died. But we did. We moved to Las Vegas, and he went to work for Uncle Garth in a service station for a while. And then he went to work for